Hello folks, I hope that you're having just a great and safe day today and keeping yourself safe from the COVID crisis. Today I want to take a look at the last story I'm going to look at from Guy de Maupassant. I've looked at 4 prior stories from this collection for you. I just finished this collection this morning, and I finished it with about a 13-page long short story called Who Knows. Who Knows is the last story that was written by Guy de Maupassant, published in late 1890, and it was the last story he published before he gave up his life to syphilis and came overcome. It's very much a very interesting biography because this is a man who, even while he was having syphilis insanity and being in an insane asylum for years, at the end of his life, he's still writing. And this is the time he's writing a lot of his horror stuff, a lot of his weird stuff in the story too. And this story is very compelling because not only is its main character dealing with the distances between being insane and being seen as insane, as well as being very cogent, writing very well, being very creative, and so in his writing. But Guy de Maupassant is going through the exact same thing too. So it feels a little biographical. That's the word we're going to use today. But it does feel like a biography. And because of that, his usage of this main character and how that main character is seen. This is one of his Poe-esque stories. It seems like about 2/3 of the horror stories that I read in this collection were in the style of Poe or were influenced by Poe. About 1/3 of them were weird stories, like The Horla, which is probably his most famous story, White Wolf, and On the River. On the River is probably my second favorite story of his I read. This, Who Knows, was my 3rd favorite story, and it was the last one in the collection. I'll link you to the collection in below in case you're interested in checking it out. I'll also link you to this story. I'll try to find a free version of the story online too, so you can read it without having to, invest any money, especially during this time when we're going through a bit of a recession. The ability to not spend money on books may be something you really value. But anyway, I'll go ahead and try to link you to both of those in the comments below. But let's take a quick look at Who Knows. What winds up happening in Who Knows is our main character has just dealt with a particularly crazy and event that has questioned that has challenged his own sanity. And so he starts off by saying, "This was crazy. Maybe I'm crazy, or maybe what happened is crazy. Who knows?" That's where the phrase comes from the story. But he begins to tell the tale. And he'll start in his estate. He'll talk about how he has always been somebody who's afraid, and you can kind of tell he's kind of this more introverted character. He talks about how he's always had difficulty sleeping when he's sleeping near other people, which is why he lives out in the countryside. And he'll also talk about that sort of an issue that he has. And then he'll talk about and how his estate, the guests, and we'll keep him up at night if they're sleeping. And he has his workers live far away from his estate, so they're not on the estate proper or anything like that, so that he can sleep. So it'll open up. He's going to a late night showing at a local theater, which is about he'll finish about 1 o'clock in the morning. Wraps up. He's starting to come home. And so forth. And as he comes home, he begins to encounter something very weird, something very unusual, and that unusual thing will begin the events as they kind of occur. So I'll put the pause button there in the synopsis for you because I don't want to take you too far. It's about 4 pages into a 13-page story. It's a short story. It took me about 20 minutes to read it this morning when I finished this collection. And again, this is his last collection. It does feel biographical in nature. It has some of the best descriptions you're going to see. It's very Poe-esque. It has sort of a fall of a person from here to here. And you're kind of watching that fall, but again, you have that tension. This person's still creative. They're still talking cogently. Their description of this event that has just happened is well done. So how much of it? And which again is very evocative of what Guy de Maupassant was experiencing during his time in convalescence in an insane asylum, which would ultimately lead in his death a little bit later after the story was published. So this is the last story of his illustrious career for you. It's a strong story. I could not recommend it better. Again, it's my 3rd favorite story in this collection, after The Horla, which is my number 1 favorite story, which I did not reread because I've already read it like 4 times, and I've already reviewed it for you too. And On the River, which is my 2nd favorite story, and I really like On the River too. It's not only my 2nd favorite horror story by Guy de Maupassant, it's my 2nd favorite story by Guy de Maupassant, and I've read probably about at least 100 of his stories. So there you are. I'll leave you to it. And again, like I said, I'll link you to the stuff below. Let me know what you thought about it. Have you read Who Knows? Have you heard about it? If you want to take a chance on his last story, why not check it out? Why not see where he finished as a writer? I think that's I think this is a very good coda for a famous man and heavily influential writer's career. This is a guy who's a part of even English canon as a French writer. You know, his translations and such. You can see how good of a writer he is from the translations into another language, right? And see how well he is at building suspense and having these sort of twists and so forth. Not all of his horror stories have that sort of traditional Guy de Maupassant twist. Not all of his stories had that. There are a lot of his stories, like some of The Signal, for example, is one of his more erotic stories. It's not related to gore in any way, shape, or form, but it doesn't have a twist at the end. It's not the only example. There are other ones too, but so they don't always have that sort of twist at the end. But that's fine. You know, the guy wrote a lot, and in some of them he builds up suspense and such, rather than just have a quick twist at the end that kind of changes your take of what was happening the entire time. But there you are. That's Guy de Maupassant for you, his final work for you. Again, let me know what you think about in the comments below. If you liked this video, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. There's going to be so many more reviews of classics and older works that I try to unpack for you and find for you from classic writers in fantasy, science fiction, and horror. And finally, I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day just to watch this video and invest it in time and invest your time in this. We all have so many things happening in our lives, and we're all pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is very humbling, and I really do appreciate that. So thanks again, and have a good one.